I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, yeah, Diamond. What's up, people? How you doing? It is a great day, and I'm so very excited to be here. You know, we have an author on the show today. We have an author. Yes, I'm very excited to have authors on my show because I think authors are amazing. Okay, amazing people. And I have Kitty Caley here, and she's here to tell us about her book and what she's doing. Kitty, thank you so much. It's been a long time coming since we've tried to get you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, anytime, anytime. Okay, so tell us about yourself before we get into this book, girl. Just tell us, just tell us.
Well, the book is all about me and my son. Yeah.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
mm,
So, how did you know you wanted to write this book? Because everybody has something, but not everybody wants to share.
well, to start with, I hadn't even thought about it. But while my son was sick, it was suggested to me that I needed to write about him. And I thought, well, I don't know really if I really would, let alone go public.
Mm.
And anyhow, I told my son in fact, about everything we talk about is in the book. He's having a conversation with his cousin in Baltimore, Debbie, saying, Mother's going to write a book. And of course, he knew it was about him. And that's what makes the book so good, is because of him, his character, his life, the kind of person he was. And well, I say today, God wrote that book. Really, he did. That book, if I start today, it'd be nothing like when it came out, because I started it 6 months after he had passed on, gone on. And it's just everything about it. In fact, I think that's why it needs to come out today, is because of our world today. It is so upside down. And it's amazing how, that's why I say God wrote this book. He meant for it to be written. He gave me the son. He was as he was, his character. Well, even until I wrote the book, no one had any idea ever of his heartache starting in his younger years, because he was so giving and caring right up to the end. And everything I talk about, it's in the book. The way he was, his character. I mean, I was so blessed. It's just, wow.
Mm. Wow.
I mean, the book there, it covers so many subjects. That's why I know God meant for this book to be written. He meant for me to have the son, him to be his character in that, because he was always, from little boy right up to manhood, even when he was lying there sick, about to die at any time. It's the way he was still loving and giving and concerned for you, not just mother, but for you. Everyone that knew him knew this was Chip.
Wow. Chip. I know it's hard. I know it can be very painful losing a child. How did you get over that before you wrote the book? Because I know the book can help. Am I incorrect in saying that? I do believe that the book can help get over the grief, but how did you initially lead to getting not over it, but getting through these tough times?
Well, again, I give it to God and to Chip. I just feel, I mean, Chip is one that kept me going, made me strong. We made each other strong. I mean, he was never a mama's boy. In fact, that subject comes up in the book. But no, he wasn't a mama's boy, and everybody knew that. I mean, and his friend Rhonda and Beth, they were two really special people in his life. I mean, and again, it's in there about him and Beth going to the Bahamas, and anyhow, and Rhonda right up to the end, her and Darlene, and held their funeral and everything. They were there, and what they did in presenting the roses and everything.
Wow.
It's just, and
Wow.
even at the eulogy and out at the gravesite, for years after he had passed away, of course, it's been a while now, but back then, Chipper always, as a little boy growing up, he had balloons. In fact, in real estate, when he was given the gift to his clients, when the deal had closed and everything, he always included balloons with his gift to them. And he said, Mother, he says, I'd like balloons at my gravesite. And I didn't really say anything, but I thought, wow, would that be right? But he wanted them.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The minister says, later, apparently, Chipper said something to him. He said, you have 3 balloons out there to the gravesite. Anyhow, so we did. My husband, Jerry, and I, we had the balloons out there at the gravesite. We got 3 white balloons. And then, as the minister was giving this talk and everything out the gravesite, and we were there under the tent, and of course, people outside, and he says, Chipper had wanted balloons at his funeral. And as he was speaking and talking about this, the lay minister, he stepped out from under the tent with these 3 balloons. And as the minister was saying, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, up, up, up went those balloons. And people for years after that told me the most beautiful sight they ever saw. Wow. And it just, I mean, this was Chip. I mean, he was the life of the party from a little boy growing up. And this is kind of a bit of his character. And, well, you know, I might mention another beautiful part was like with the book cover. Well, I can't show you the book because I'm not showing, I'm just talking. But anyhow, the on the book cover, that goes to another subject. Oh, wait, I get sidetracked. What was I talking about? Anyhow, what was I talking about?
Yeah, the graveside, the balloons.
And then something more with this perfectly was when my son, of course, he was close to dying at different times, but he'd come right back. He'd be okay. And he was so strong and so good, although, yeah, and it tells in the book, he definitely was going down, deteriorating to nothing. Anyhow, but the beautiful part, now skip there to the very end, and Chipper, it was close. And yet, I was there. It was around 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was at his bedside. By then, we had moved the hospital bed into the corner of the living room. And right there, I was looking down, reading or something, and Chip says, Mother, I looked at him, and he was reaching his arm, his left arm up. God wants me. And I reached, I leaned over we had the guardrail up on the bed. I leaned over that and I kissed him on the temple. And I said, yes, Chipper, that's where you'll be going. And he shook his head, yes, as I was sitting down. And you know what? He didn't pass away at that time. That was just like Chipper all his life. He was looking out for you, not just Mother, but you, anyone he was with. He was looking out for them. He was letting me know, Mother, I'm going to be with God. And there he was. He lived 2 more days. That's what I'm saying. He did. You would have thought, and I didn't relate to it till later. I thought, wow, that's just like Chip. I mean, it was beautiful. And then when he did pass away, in fact, when it was close, and my husband had gone ahead and, well, he was going to stay. And I said, no, go ahead. You need to go to the spa, work out. Because we, all three of us, had always been working out for years. Anyhow, so my husband left, and something told me, I don't know, I should call a doctor. I called Dr. Gravely, and I talked to her, and it's beautiful. And there, what had transpired with her at that time. I mean, anything, I can't go into every detail, but the beautiful part here, him laying there and thinking, this may be the time. And I told Jerry to go on to the spot, and he would not have gone if he thought he was going to pass on. But no, we both thought, no. Anyhow, while Jerry was gone, I thought, well, really, you're supposed to call a doctor. I called Dr. Gravely, and it's beautiful. I recorded our conversation, and it is in the book, word for word. She just loved Chipper. I mean, everyone did. Yeah, she talked about him. It's beautiful how she talked, and she said when he had gone there for what was happening at that time with him, she said he didn't belong here. And you know, he didn't. In fact, it wasn't until they got the paperwork together and they sent him back home. Of course, it's maybe, I can't remember, a week he was there, but we went to see him every day, and it was several miles away. Anyhow, that's just an example of how it was at the very end. It's just like when he was born. In the very beginning, my husband and I, we wanted a little boy. I guess it's because I always think of my older brother, Dwayne, being the oldest in the family. Boy should be first. And this was really how it was. And luckily, my husband, and he was a Twig. Chipper's birth name, well, he was born. We had the boy, the son we wanted. And his name was Emory Dale Twigg. And then it's in the book. This book covers so much because years later, with my husband, Jerry Williamson, I'd been married to 25 years. Mm-hmm. And it goes on about their, see, I lose my train of thought. Anyhow, what had happened during those 25 years with Jerry, though, then Chipper legally, rightfully, took his name, Williamson. And when he passed away, well, in fact, there was this little, when he was a little boy, the neighbor girl, she had her baby, and his name was Brandon. He says, Mother, you know, I've always liked that name, Brandon. You know what? He took that name when he became a Williamson. He became Brandon T. for Brandon Twigg, but he just say Brandon T. Williamson.
Wow.
I mean, that's what I mean. This is why it's so important today for this book. And I believe it's the timing is needed because of so much in the world today. And the big part is that that's why I say God meant for this book to be written. That's why I say he wrote it. It covers so much. And just a short 27 years Chip was on this earth. It's just like myself, then learning when I could not have another child. Oh, that was the worst thing. See, that's even hard yet today for me to talk about. Now, all these abortions and people having kids to get the money, this is where I can help so many of these girls, whatever. It takes two to bring that child into bearing to begin with. And then it is just so important that child needs the love and the care from day one. And even before the book, I always said, those first 5 years are the most important years of every child's life. And it is us, Kitty. You know what you're talking about right here. Yes, they do. Yeah, they're little, sweet little innocent babies up to 5 years, but they know their surroundings, what's going on, what's happening. And that is their foundation
Yeah.
when they become adults. And that's why today I can say from day one, everything Shipper went through up to the end, I am proud of him. In fact, that's why I said look in the beginning, and when I had this conversation with Cynthia at the spa, and excuse me, I say, I told her that, you see, I'm from our friend because I explained something that, now what was I talking about? It was at the spa. Oh, it was because I was telling her and we were having a conversation about her kids and my kids, and she says, well, how old was your son when he passed away? And I let her know. And I said, in fact, that conversation, I related to her of him being gay and dying of AIDS. And that was really the first time I opened up. Well, we were friends when we were, after our workout, swimming and exercising, and then getting ready, rushing to get ready because I had to be work at 9 o'clock, and that was at 6 o'clock in the morning. I had my mouth swim and my workout, and then anyhow, it was at that time I let her know, and wow, I had to because I'm very honest. And Chip, that's the most important thing because, well, he always, everybody called him Brandon, but Kitty kept calling him Chip. And he was named after, in fact, before he was even born. See, I'm skipping over if you can follow me.
I
But
can follow you.
it was before he was even born. And my husband and my stepfather, Chris, they always played and joked around. And then after Chipper was born with him, but before he's born, he says, well, we got to think of a good name for him when he's born. He says, Chip. I says, Chip. He says, yeah, in those days it's Chip off the block. Well, this was Chip off the twig. And I said, oh, I wouldn't have such a name on my child. And I really meant it. Oh, I thought, no, not Chip, because I was going to call him Eddie, the initials ED for Emory Dale. Later my husband said, what did you call him? Chip. He was a good Chip all the way to the very end.
Oh.
Everyone else called him Brandon, but it was just anyhow, it was his character, his person. Yes, he was gay. He died of AIDS. Everyone, of course, that knew me knew this, but it's just like, well, after I wrote the book, and then I thought, no, it's not right to make money off of my son's life. Well, I went down to the Dallas bookstore, to Crossroads there, and I was looking for a publisher. I really knew nothing what to do. Well, William Wayburn, he was the owner and his partner. His partner was in, I believe, Washington, D.C., but William had me come into his office and we got to talking. And you know what happened? He took me right down the street in the next block to talk with Craig Hess. Craig Hess. Right then, it's just when the food pantry was starting for these HIV, AIDS. And in our talking, what do you know? I started volunteering for the next 22 years. I put my book aside. In fact, I put it with iUniverse, and I didn't work it. I was there. In fact, if you ever go to my webpage, it's kittycaley.com. Got the most beautiful testimonials on there of people that read my book, their thoughts, their feelings, and how it touched them and what they got out. And that's the whole thing. This will help so many people. I see I'm skipping around on these different subjects.
It's okay.
And
it's okay.
It's just, that's what the book is. It covers so much. And it's just so important that does help other people. It's fruit for thought. I mean, things happen to all of us. I don't say problems, I say challenges.
Yeah.
We come to this earth for these challenges to see how we handle them, what we do with them. And with God, we can do right. Yes, it's not going to be easy. I mean, Satan's out there doing whatever he can, but it's up to us. You either choose Satan's way or God's way.
Yeah.
And with God, yes, no matter what. And this is a beautiful part because he definitely was with my son and I and all through this. And it's, well, just like the one part I had gone to not being able to have another child. And this relates, I was married to a Chinese man, Mark Heng. We called him Hank, his Chinese name. And there's another whole subject that, well, it's not in the book how it ended up, but we did because of, see, I'd like to talk all about that. What's not in the book. But it ended up beautiful because I say to this day that Hank is the most beautiful, good man I've ever known. He had everything with everyone. And I even tell Chipper and his character in the book, they are two of a kind. With Chipper's main young years was with Hank growing up. And people love both of them. That's when we had the restaurant. Well, Hank was a programmer, but then he'd grown up with his uncle in South Bend, and he came here from southern China when he was just a little infant, a young boy. And his grandfather, no, his uncle. See, here we go. His uncle raised him as all his cousins. And then he came to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I got to tell you about this because when I moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana, I had lived in Maryland. And then when my husband had asked for the legal separation, all that. Anyhow, see, I'm touching on different things, but it's more in detail in the book. I just don't have time.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
but it's in the book.
Yes, it is in the book.
Wow.
And the beautiful part is that I got a brief because this part about with Hank later, because we did divorce when I went to get the fertility shot, was new way back then, because I hadn't gotten pregnant yet. And Chipper wanted a brother. And of course, I definitely wanted to give Hank a boy too. And I knew back in those days, well, China was known, they didn't let the female babies live. I learned that in grade school. And that's all I knew about the Chinese. But then Hank and me did a long time, and then we fell in love and we got married. Well, I got a brief on this, but the good part is that he had told me while we were dating and that they had this lady picked out for him in Hong Kong, where his mother lived. He would one day marry her. Well, him and I fell in love, though. And when we fell in love, I mean, then we got married. And the beautiful part is, and then I'm chummed over then, and because like I said, then when I went to get that fertility shot, that was when the doctor said, no, you're never having any more children. That was the worst thing. Wow. I went back to the restaurant then, and Chipper and Hank was there in the dining area, and I told him, and Hank says, I love you. I love Chip. We're family. And we were so close knit. We were, and Chipper was there. And to tell them that I could not have any more, brother for him and wanting to give Hank because of knowing a son. Anyhow, but he accepted. He says, I love you. We are family. And that's most important. That's right. That's his whole attitude, always about everything, with everyone. And the beautiful part about it, anyhow, it got to the point, though, I guess, I just couldn't accept it. I didn't feel like I was a woman anymore. And we ended up, he didn't want the divorce. I didn't want the divorce. And but it did happen. It just wasn't fair. But now I got her and tell the beautiful part before we run out of time. I have no idea how much time we got. And this is not in the book, but the beautiful part is, and it is in the book about Chipper when he went to Maryland to see his own dad, and coming back, he stopped to see Martha. And when he was right, she was the elderly lady behind us there. And they were real close, him and the little guy growing up. Anyhow, he stopped to see her. And as he was leaving, he did relate to her. Well, I'm going to go see Hank now. And Martha says, Hank's married and he has a little boy. Well, you know, Chip came on home and he told us about his vacation, but he didn't tell me that part until a few days later. Now, here's an example how Chip was. Then is probably within the week or so, he says, Mother, he says, I've got something to tell you. And it's about my trip. I thought, we know you had a beautiful trip and going back there in your new MGB and your dad, you know, driving it in the car you'd bought yourself. Anyhow, but he says, Mother, what I wanted to tell you. And then it's what I just said. He says, when I was leaving Martha's and I thought I was going to go see Hank, he says, now, Mother, he says, in one way, this is going to hurt you. And another way, it's going to make you happy. That's how he knew. That's the kind of person he was.
Yeah.
And he told me, Hank was married and has a little boy. He knew. And he didn't want to hurt me, but he wanted me to have the happiness. And that definitely did. And that's what, you know, and then I'll skip way over now to the end of the book. And I had called Hank to ask him about putting his picture in the book. Well, before that, I got to tell you, we did call Hank, and we hadn't talked to him in years, but we talked to him when Chipper knowing he was living with death. And there's a conversation and everything. The conversation with Aaron, my stepdaughter, her husband at that time. And anyhow, but back to, here we go. This is my frame of thought. Where was I at?
So you had called him, and at the very end.
Oh, yeah. And so then I called him at the very end to ask him if I could that's where I was to put his picture in the book. And we did. We put his, and I asked him, and he says, yes. But before we hung up the phone, you know, I asked him, I says, well, are you still a programmer and got the restaurant business going? He says, yes. He says, I've got 2 boys to put through college. That's how he was. And he had the boys I couldn't give him. And I believe it was no doubt the little Chinese lady that was meant for him. And this, again, is all God's doings. If we hadn't got married, and you know, this thought never entered my mind until recently. Recently, there was this immigration problem we're having with people coming here. Oh, sorry, another subject I'm not going to get on. But the beautiful, it didn't enter my mind but until then. I thought, you know what? It crossed my mind then, just maybe, 2-3 years ago. That's the beautiful part. If we had not gotten married, then when he brought her over here, they would have both been illegals. But you know what? We got married. And of course, the man he immediately, back then, you took classes, you learned, and you became an American citizen.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And therefore, when I thought of this just recently about the immigration part, wow, that's beautiful. Because we got married and then things didn't happen like they should have. But the beautiful part is, here he is with his wife, and she is an American citizen right immediately when he married her. See, he deserved that. If anybody, he deserved that. He is such a good man, and I'm sure he's got a beautiful family.
Wow. Well, Kitty, thank you so much for being on the show. I tell you what a wonderful story. And I know that people are going to be able to go to the Amazon link, which is in the description box, to check it out for themselves. I mean, this is not just for your son, but it's a life lived of love and of just, caring. And I'm sure he left so much goodness in your heart, and you are a mom. You are a mom.
No, I'm a mother. We never use the word mom.
You never use the word mom. Why?
No, because my mother, she taught me, you call me mother. And
Okay.
she was always mother.
Okay, well, you're a mother. You're a mother.
I
And
got,
you will always be a mother. And it's just wonderful what you've done.
there's an audiobook coming also.
Mhm.
And that's going to be with a company right here in Dallas. And that's the main thing, because that's going to be coming out probably within the next month or so. But
Nice.
yeah, it's just and that's Books to Life market.
Okay. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I had a wonderful time with your storytelling today. Thank you so much, Kitty, for being on the show finally and for sharing all that wonderful story. I mean, it was just wonderful. And it continues and it goes into more deep depths and deepness inside of that book that you might want to go ahead and check out for yourselves. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different. And until next time, guys, bye.